And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And in the studio with us is Charles Sauer, economist, president of the Market Institute, libertarian think tank, marketinstitute.org. You can tweet him at Charles Sauer, S-A-U-E-R. And Charles, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
For our regular conversations. What I wanted to do with this today, rather than getting into, like historically what we've done is take one particular wonky topic, like healthcare, and just like, okay, you've got a libertarian worldview, I've got a liberal worldview, let's compare and beat each other up or whatever. But I'm really interested in the larger thing. I mean, we saw this experiment in Kansas where Sam Brownback said, okay, we're going to do what the Koch brothers want. We're going to massively cut taxes on rich people. We're going to defund basically anything that has to do with poor people. We're going to cut funding to the schools, et cetera, et cetera. He did not obviously get a libertarian paradise in Kansas. And in fact, what happened is Kansas is now devastated as a result of this. And they're having to raise taxes and say, oops. And he said, this is a proof of Reaganomics. But I get it. Reaganomics is not a libertarian worldview. So what would America look like if your worldview, David Koch's worldview, the libertarian worldview were actually imposed on this country?
Increased GDP, increased employment, higher satisfaction with your quality of life, and less government intrusion into that quality of life. But let's go back to what Sam Brownback did in Kansas City. I'm from Kansas City. I grew up in Kansas. And what he did wasn't libertarian, right? He actually, what he did was inept leadership. And so he came after one proposal and they shut it down. And he goes, I'll tell you what, I know what they did in 1986. They came back with a stronger proposal and on Capitol Hill in 1986 tax reform. The second Capitol tax reform was a lower bill, good bill, went through fast. Sam Brownback tried to do that in Kansas City or in Kansas, and they accepted it, but he did it with no planning and no thought and no bridge. And so what has happened?
In other words, what Brownback did was stupid conservatism. It wasn't libertarianism. It was
stupid conservatism.
So you say that in a libertarian United States that we'll have higher GDP. Let's take these one at a time.
Okay.
How do we get higher GDP? GDP is driven by demand. Econ 101, Adam Smith, and how does doing away with consumer protections? I mean, basically, the libertarian doing away with consumer protections, doing away with the income tax, doing away with Social Security, doing away with Medicare, doing away with government involvement basically in our lives in any way. How does that cause the average person to have more money to buy stuff?
Well, that's fairly easy. There was when Obama came into office, was it Obama? I don't know. They had the car buyback program. It might have been by Bush. It was bad policy where
No, that was Obama. The cash for clunkers.
Cash for clunkers. They bought the used cars, and what did they do? Did they give them to poor people? Did they allow people that couldn't afford a car to have a car and drive to work? No, they just trashed these cars. And
part of that was because those old cars were emitting 2-3 times the carbon dioxide that they should have been anyway. But what does that have to do with?
That's possible. All of the research that goes into that.
Without going back and finding one policy from Obama that you don't like. I'm talking, seriously, you're talking to somebody who if I lose my, if I no longer can send my kids to public schools, if I no longer can be protected from, whoever I put my retirement funds with ripping me off, and the banksters can do anything they want to me. If the doctors and hospitals, if there's no controls on them and on the insurance companies from ripping me off or denying me coverage, how is it that I have a better life? I don't understand this.
What I don't understand is how hard it must be to walk down the street every day as a liberal and think that the whole world is against you. And thing is,
that's a straw man.
No.
Come on, I don't think the whole world's against me. I walk down the street and I go, this is a public street paid for with public taxes. You want to do away with public taxes and put toll roads on the street. How does that help me?
But you think the store owner is going to come out, run and put a Snickers bar in there?
I'm running a business right here.
Okay, but the guy underneath here is going to run down and put a Snickers bar in your pocket and make you pay for it. And then that Snickers bar might not have the right health quality. The fact is, when a market runs, markets actually have demand. And if you aren't getting that demand, in that case, then you are not making money. So you actually want to treat your customers well. An insurance company wants to take care of people so that people will keep coming
insurance
there.
companies. My experience of insurance companies is that they will take any chance they can to rip me off. And I've been doing this for over 40 years. You know,
and we make
having insurance companies say, "Oh no, we're not going to pay." On the third time, particularly with United Healthcare, sometimes you have to fight it 2-3 times.
And we make it really, really hard in the United States to change insurance companies. Right? You have to have employer-based insurance if you want to have an affordable insurance plan.
So if we do away with all these consumer protections, what's going to prevent them from ripping me off? Your utopian idea that they all just, want goodwill?
Look, no, people will actually pay attention because in any market you have charlatans, right? You have people
I don't want to pay attention.
Okay,
I want the freedom to choose my doctor or my hospital, but I don't give a damn about the freedom to choose.
You want to pay the politician to pay attention for you. I'll tell you who doesn't have the incentive to pay attention for you, and that's a politician. The people that are in front of politicians are the corporate lobbyists that are in there every single day that are telling the politicians what to pay attention to.
And in a libertarian world, those lobbyists have even more power and influence.
No, they don't, because I have reduced the influence of government over anything that I deal with. And when I reduce the influence of government, now I pay attention for myself.
So rather than screwing us by lobbying for laws that are to their benefit, they just screw us directly.
Well, it's a lot harder to screw the populace than to just work through one person that can change a law and screw us off.
If you believe that, how did all these people vote for Donald Trump thinking that they were going to get a better health care plan?
They voted for Donald Trump because he said he was going to get government out of it. He was going to change us from Obamacare, which has doubled my premiums and reduced the quality of my health care.
Well, yeah, you can thank Marco Rubio for that. But
letting me go back onto a plan that might actually work.
Okay, so, Charles Koch's platform in 1980 when he ran for vice president, repeal all the federal campaign finance laws. So billionaires can own any politician they want.
That's great.
How is that a good thing?
Well, that's free speech, and it might be bad if the government runs everything, but if you reduce the size of government, it's good.
Okay, we favor the abolition of Medicare and Medicaid. So now you've got 40 million people who are on Medicare right now, and another 26 million, I think, who are on Medicaid, and all of them now have no health insurance, and by the way, they have no money.
Well, look, people have become reliant on government. They've given up their decision-making to government. So if you do it without a bridge, you're correct. But if you do it with a bridge, there was a market.
What's the bridge?
It's whatever bridge.
Let's call it
5-10 years.
When you have no income?
Let's call it 5-10 year bridge to something where we have no Medicare, no Medicaid. Now,
in other words, so even though I've paid into this for 40 some odd years, every year that goes by, you're gonna pay for less and less of my services.
I think there's a lot of good arguments for Medicaid. Actually, it's not true libertarian.
He says we favor the repeal of the fraudulent, virtually bankrupt, and increasingly oppressive Social Security system. Pending that repeal, participation in Social Security should be made voluntary. How does that help America?
How does taking my paycheck money and investing it in a bridge to nowhere help America?
Social Security is not a bridge to nowhere. Social Security is a lifeline for people.
No, the money that the federal government spent on there's a biodome in Iowa that they spent my Social Security money on.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. They built a biodome in Iowa.
Not with your Social Security money.
Yeah, they have. I'm sorry, the paper that's still left in the Social Security bank accounts that says IOU. Those are
called Treasury bills.
They actually use.
George W. Bush was born with $1 million in Treasury bills in his trust fund. Are you saying that he didn't actually have $1 million? Serious question.
No,
Treasury bills are the safest investment in the world. That's what our Social Security is invested in.
The government. Well, this is George W. Bush. They took their money voluntarily and put it in there.
That we should have Social Security, not that we shouldn't.
No, I actually think that where I will go with you is that privatizing Social Security is not the right way to go. The government shouldn't take it from us and then invest in the open market. But the solution is not the government taking our money and then spending it at their will. The solution is the government to stop taking our money.
If you can't make enough money through the course of your lifetime to save enough money that you can retire, tough luck, die in the gutter.
Actually, I would be happy to support any charity that was taking care of old people that had not saved enough.
All of the charitable giving in the United States to poor people last year was around $5 billion. That's less than we spent on food stamps.
that is also
Charity
less than what's taken away from us
charity is not even
taxes.
Close.
All you have to do is take away the taxes. Stop taxing me on these things, and I have money.
David, okay. Apropos of that, David Koch says, we support repeal of all laws which impede the ability of any person to find employment, such as minimum wage laws. So you want to be, they also oppose, we advocate the complete separation of education and state. Government schools lead to the indoctrination of children and interfere with free choice. Government ownership, operation, regulation, and subsidy of schools and colleges should be ended. So we're all going to Trump University? No regulation?
Actually, most of the teachers' unions would call for this too, right? They say No Child Left Behind is a bad law. And in No Child Left Behind,
only because of the testing requirements. It took a testing industry.
I'm sorry, they don't want to be held accountable from federal government.
To do with that.
They don't want to pay private companies owned by Neil Bush. The federal government was spending like 7% of their money on the federal government. But the minimum wage laws are actually like death rate laws, right? Because by the time they pass them into law and start implementing them, it's already below the poverty level. If you do away with the minimum wage, you actually can have markets take over. And how many states now have higher than the federal minimum wage as their minimum wage laws? We should do away with the federal minimum wage.
Most of the blue states.
Most markets would come above the federal minimum wage very quickly.
So when
you don't need a law to tell somebody
what they raised their minimum wage, and it goosed their economy, because suddenly now minimum wage employees who spend virtually 100% of their paycheck are getting more money, and so they're spending more money, which is stimulating aggregate demand. You think that's a bad thing?
What I'm saying is that the federal government shouldn't say what they can do. On a state level, I actually do think it's a bad idea, but I think that that's for a state-by-state decision. Okay, on the federal level, it's
David
horrible.
Koch ran on the platform of, we support the abolition of the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA was started because the Cuyahoga River caught on fire. You want to go back to that?
Didn't the EPA just almost catch another river on fire by themselves here just a few months ago?
You're talking, this is last year, you're talking the private contractor that they hired to clean up a gold mine that had been dumped on we the people by a private for-profit corporation.
They can't even do their own job. Now they're hiring it out. This is, you can't blame the job.
So you want to do away with the EPA?
I think that's a fairly easy one.
Okay, we support abolition of the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy runs our nuclear programs, our nuclear weapons.
The Department of Energy almost doesn't do anything. The Department of Energy is overseeing where the Department of Energy does do things, like overseeing some of our trash lots. The left tends to oppose them doing that. A lot of the left wants to do away with the.
Koch says we specifically oppose laws requiring an individual to buy or use so-called self-protection equipment such as seat belts, airbags, and crash helmets. So, I mean, one of the things that we know from the safety belt laws is that because Reagan passed this law in '86 that said anybody who shows up at an ER has to be treated, that it was actually costing us more than the cost of the safety belts to treat the people who were injured in the car crashes. So it worked out to be economically a good thing to have seatbelt laws. You're saying do away with them? I'm
saying that implementing them meant that there was a certain amount of people that couldn't afford the cars because of adding them in. Could they not? Was it more dangerous?
Couldn't afford the car because it's an extra, $100 for a seatbelt.
It's actually more than that. Airbags were the same because the prices went up. The market works now, and that's part of the pricing system. But the fact is every time you raise the minimum wage, you make it faster for them to put somebody else in. Every time you increase regulation, you make it more expensive for a customer to buy something, and that's keeping the single mom that's trying to make ends meet.
Regulations are also consumer protection. So every time you do away with the regulation, you're doing away with the consumer protection, which is that mom is being protected.
I think that this is the good argument to have, right? This is where is the consumer protection and keeping the single mom away from earning for her family correct? I'm always going to side with the single mom providing for her family, but I'll let the left play nanny state all that they want. I'll take that argument every single day.
Okay, Charles, you get the last word.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Charles Sauer, economist and president of the Market Institute, marketinstitute.org. You can tweet him at Charles Sauer, Sauer. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
We'll be back.